A year ago today, I was stood on this same hill overlooking my hometown of Accrington, and it's fair to say that since then, this year of 2017 has flown by, and I've learned so much about myself. I've worked on some awesome film projects, I collaborated with some really cool people, traveled, explored a bit, and tried out some new hobbies, and also failed many times along the way. So this is basically my 2017 roundup of the year and a few, three main things that I learnt throughout the year. So the third thing that I kind of experienced a lot this year, because we're going to count down, because counting down is cooler than counting up, is that I really started to connect with the love of progression and the feeling of I'm progressing in something and improving. And I think that, I'm sure you guys can attest to this, of going through periods in your life where you're working towards a goal, or you're working towards improving in some area, and like you are having some improvement. You can see that you didn't want to do something before and you started doing it, and you're slowly getting into it, and you're getting better. I think spending a lot of your day focused on something and seeing at the end of the day where you've come from waking up at 9 and then it's midnight and you're like, oh well, this day was super productive, and there's something really fulfilling about that. And I guess it's the whole idea of we all want quick fixes to our goals. We want to like get there really quick, but unfortunately I think the truth is it's a grind to get anywhere and to get better at anything, and we all want to find shortcuts around something. And I've definitely been guilty of this year, of like trying to do a skill and doing the really easy thing of trying to learn it. And I think this is something recently that I realized as well. I was like, I want to really set my mindset on learning a new language, and I was like, oh, I want to learn Spanish. And the first thing that my little brother did, because he got me like a Spanish booklet for Christmas and stuff, which is very nice of him, I started to realize that despite the fact that I've tried to learn languages before, and even relating it back to practicing piano and being like, I want to learn an instrument, I think like there's different ways you can learn a skill. You can either just dive headfirst into it and just try and pick up all the pieces of how it all works, or you can really work at the base level and really understand how this thing works from a very like fundamental point. And I think that's why people give up a lot on skills, because they get bored of the fact that they're having to learn like the baby language of a language, or a piano. Like, I have to know my scales, and I have to know that that's a C, that's a D. I think for most people that's quite dull, because you just want to do the playing, and you want to be like, I want to play my favorite Usher song on piano. Or I just want to learn a language, I just want to speak fluently with everyone. But the truth is that unless you know the base level concepts of how this thing works, or how this skill works, I think you lose motivation really quickly. And piano is a perfect example of that. I remember when I got my piano, I was like, I'm going to learn all these songs. I started learning some songs. I was like, yeah! But I wasn't like learning how the piano worked. I was looking on YouTube, how do you play this song? And being like, okay, that note, that note, that note, that note, that note. And then after a while, it actually just becomes boring, because you sit in front of the piano and you're like, I don't know how to play the piano. I know how to press keys and remember you press that key and you press that key, but you don't actually understand how the instrument works. And I think this works with everything. Yoga is a perfect example. When I was in Budapest earlier this year, I went to a proper yoga class for the first time. And I was like, because I did YouTube videos in terms of like looking at a yoga instructor and like being like, downward dog, do this stretch. And then as soon as you go to a yoga class, you're like, okay, yeah, I've done yoga before. I've done about 50 hours of it on YouTube. And then you do one move and the teacher's like, no, you're doing that completely wrong. And I was like, what? But the woman, not the thing, and I copied, and I've done it for like 6 months. She's like, nope, you need to arch your back up more, you need to stick your bum out, you need to do that, you need to like bend, you need to feel, not lock your knees. And I'm just like, oh my God, I've been doing it wrong all this time. And it's because, again, it's the fundamental level of any skill set. And I think as soon as you start to realize that, and you start to find ways to get back to the basics, and also try and work through the boredom of the basics, because obviously they're not interesting in comparison to what you perceive in your head of being really flexible and really fit, and being really strong, or yeah, again with piano being playing your favorite song and just seeing a piano publicly and being like, and everyone's like, oh my god, so good. Like, that takes a long time, and to try and fast forward that process, I think you become really bored of the skill in itself, and also you won't actually be learning properly. So number 2 is being at peace with the negative, terrible, shitty emotions that you have in life. We all have days where we just feel like crap. You just feel crap. You just have no motivation. You don't want to do anything productive. I've definitely had many of those days this year. But I've also had some days where I was doing something that I enjoyed doing. And an example of this that I can remember is I did a film shoot in Manchester and then came back to my hometown on the train. And I just sat on the train and I just started to feel really crap. I was just like, what am I doing? Like, I just didn't have an excitement about anything in life, and I just like fell into this like where all the life and energy was sucked out of me, and I was just sat on this train like, damn, like, and then I started to have a very conscious awareness of the fact that I was feeling this way. As soon as I started to think about, okay, I'm feeling like shit. I don't know why I'm feeling like shit, because I couldn't pinpoint it to a particular thing. Nothing happened in the day for me to feel like crap. But as soon as I started to notice the fact that I was feeling this sensation and not just sitting into it and being like, I feel like crap, this is what I am right now, I started to become aware of the fact that I felt terrible. And then also started to think, well, I don't need to, me knowing why isn't really important in the situation. But what is important is me understanding that this is an important part, and this is a universal part of being a person. There's nothing wrong with feeling terrible. There's nothing wrong with having a day where you just don't feel good and you just sit around and do nothing, because as long as you're aware of what those feelings are and the fact that they exist, and don't identify with like, I feel terrible, I am terrible, then you can always get past that. I think you can always be super aware that we all have ups and downs, and we all have highs and lows in our lives, and to try and identify with like, me being happy all the time is the peak I need to reach. That is like the goal of, I have ups and downs, and the ups are the things I have to chase. I don't think that's the way things work. I think regardless of how you live in life, you'll always have ups and downs. You could get everything that you think you want in life, but I think you'll always have ups and downs. And there's a really good book I read recently called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F***. And the author basically talks about how life is based around problems. And everything you do in life is about solving problems, and you've just got to decide whether you have good problems or bad problems, but they're still problems. So if you're like, I want to move out of my parents' house, let's say, you'll then move out your parents' house and you get the flat and you're like, yeah, I've moved out, great. But then there's still going to be other problems that didn't exist when you lived with your parents. And if you're like, oh, I want to be really renowned at this career that I'm doing, you might get there, but then there'll be other problems because you have extra responsibility because of where you are. They're different problems, but I think it's about the problems, find the problems that you enjoy solving, which I think is a really profound way to look at just like the experience of life, that there's never going to be a moment where you're happy all the time. It doesn't exist, it's impossible. This video, I came up here 3 days ago to film this video, right? I came up too late, so the sun had gone down. And in my head, I was like, oh, well, I want to make this yearly review thing to kind of share with you guys and to have a dialogue with everyone watching. And I was like, oh, because it connects to the last video I made, and I was on the same hill. And I love the idea that every year I can come on this hill in my hometown and share my year with you guys and see how I've grown. And it's this like romanticized version of the act of creating something. It's the most retarded thing ever. Like last night, I thought to myself, okay, if I don't make this video, that would be I'd have so much more regret than it being a perfect thing that I see in my head of like the lighting being beautifully lit and like everything working out perfectly. And I was like, well, no, like if it's raining today, I'm just gonna do it in my bedroom. I'm just gonna film in my house. Like it's not gonna be as good as here, Obviously I've been lucky today because it is a very beautiful light, but it's such a stupid way of thinking that everything has to be perfect and the way I envision it in order for it to work. And it's a really bad mentality I've found about myself. I save up for film kit and I'm like, when I get this bit of film kit, this bit of film kit, then I can make the thing that I've been planning, but why didn't I just make it? So the number one thing that I've been aware of this year is that I'm gonna die one day. Yes, we're all gonna die one day. One day we're not gonna be here. And I think being aware of your own morality is something that a lot of people don't do, because I think you can either go two paths. You can either be like, well, one day I'm not gonna be here, I'm gonna die, so what's the point in doing anything? So I might as well just like watch Netflix and do jack all with my life. Or the other way you could take it is, shit, I'm not gonna be here one day, so me doing things that I don't enjoy doing, spending time with people I don't enjoy spending time with, is just ludicrous because every day I'm dying. So I better work on the things that I actually enjoy doing in life. And I don't know why this year has been the year where I've really been thinking about this a lot more, looking at my family and being super aware that my grandparents are not going to be here one day. They're still here today, which is awesome. But there is going to be a time when, there's going to be a day when they're just not here. And there's nothing you can do about that. And it's like, and just to have the appreciation of the fact that I'm very fortunate that they are still here and I can still spend time with them. And even my mother, for instance, is a perfect example. One day, our mothers will not be here. And maybe for some of you watching, they're not still here. And I guess, I'm sure you would attest that if you had the ability that I have to just say hello and spend time with them and be with them, you would do that right now. And only in the hindsight of them not being here, that is when you realize how amazing they were as people and actually what they did for you. With friendships, that's the same thing that's happened to me this year, of really understanding the balance of, or even working on the balance of being with friends and having days where, okay, this is the day where I focus on my work and progressing in my career, and this is the day where I just spend time with friends and play video games and spend time with my brother and just play Mario Kart. Like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and I used to think that there was. I used to think that the time spent not doing the career is time wasted, and it's less time to progress. And I call bullshit on that. I think it's a lot of rubbish. I think you can do that, and there are certain career paths where more time equals being better, but I don't think filmmaking works like that. I don't think a lot of careers work that way, because at the end of the day, if you're not fulfilled in these other areas of your life, then you're never going to be good at the thing that you love anyway. You see people who have the thing that you think you want, and then their relationships are terrible, or something happens in their life and they just crumble. I read this recently, and I don't remember where I read it, where the author talks about the idea of how we have, when we think about morality and when we think about our own existence and the fact that we exist right now, like, you're watching this on a screen, you exist, you're living. Like, how fucking crazy is that? The sperm that your mum and dad, you were the one sperm that got in and was like, poof, the egg, and then now you're here. How fucking cool is that? It's really funny when you think about that, because I always visualize a little animation of you being like. The author that I was looking at, he talked about how in life we actually want to be remembered past when our body dies, and you can actually still exist when your body is gone. And he argues it's the reason why people, architects, like, want to have their names on buildings, and philosophers and kind of leaders want to have statues made of them. And filmmakers and authors, to be remembered and to exist after their body dies is kind of what we all crave in a way. And not necessarily on the grandiose sense of wanting a sculpture made out of me, more in the sense of, even on the sense of your family remembering you for a specific thing, or your friends remembering you as a likable person, or you've impacted someone. If you don't have people in your life that you can help, you can impact and share and almost be a memory for, then the world is quite lonely. One of the things in life that I have struggled with is wanting to be the cinematographer that everyone remembered, and like the films that always impacted this person for the rest of history. And thinking that way actually puts a shitload of pressure on you, because you look back at your year, as I'm doing now, and you're like, oh my God, like, how much did I progress to being that thing? Not a lot in the grand scheme of things. And you're like, damn, what could I have done to be that? And every year is just this rush, this rush, this rush, this rush, this rush. And then by the time you're 35, I'm 25 now, so halfway through my 20s. And then you look back 10 years from now and you're like, oh crap, like, I should have done those things and then I would be the cinematographer that everyone remembers. But it's not important anymore. I think it's a really lame way of living. So I've started to realize that I want to put my happiness and my fulfillment in my own hands, and based upon things that I do and the actions that I can take. I want to be the person to ask that director if he wants to collaborate with me. The success isn't that film director will work with me, then that's success. The actual fulfillment comes from the action of asking, and the outcome is not in my control. I have no control over the decisions that someone else makes. Even influencing it is based on obviously the work you've already done and where you are in life, and some of it is also luck. You're in the right place at the right time, and that other person is in the right place at the right time. You just connect, and that works with relationships, it works with everything. But you don't just sit on your ass and some guy like calls you, or some girl is like, hey, and you're like, oh, like you have to do the action. And being that person who is the initiator is like so fulfilling for me. Being the and basing my success, as it were, and basing my fulfillment off that is much more powerful. So I'm going to leave it there for this episode and this year. But I just want to say a big thank you to all the collaborators and people who have worked with me on projects this year. And also a big thank you to everyone who's watched my previous videos. I definitely want to make more stuff next year, more YouTube stuff, whether that be smaller content or even more conversations like this. Maybe even with other people. That may be quite interesting. So yeah, if you want to see more of this stuff, hit the subscribe button below, comment and like the video as well. And if there's anything in this video that's resonated with you, let me know, because it's always interesting to hear other journeys and other choices people have made in life and the realizations that they've had and just thoughts and ideas. As if you know me, you know I love having philosophical conversations about things. Every year is interesting, and every year reveals something new about the world and myself, and I think that's incredibly fun and makes me want to just make more stuff. So have an amazing new year and have an amazing start of 2018, and I will see you very, very soon.